seems legit.
Hello Legitimates and welcome back to my channel. I have jumped on the bandwagon that everybody else is doing and I have made a Boxy pouch. This is from Genow Patterns, that is Genow, which you can get on Etsy. And this is the pattern comes in like 4 sizes. So this is called the long, and the idea is that you can fit all of your hair accessories in it. So I've put mine in just to show you. I thought this was really quick. You can see by the size of the video that it was pretty quick. So what we've got in here is my full-size hair straightener with all its cording. And then I've also put in my hair curler, which doesn't get used very often. Ignore the dust. I need to clean it. But then I also got in here my hair waver. So I got 3 hair accessories. And I reckon you could also get your brushes in there as well. So it is quite roomy. It is long enough to fit them all, which I feel is probably the key point here. Because if you were going on holiday and you wanted to take all your stuff, it's very handy to just have them all in one thing. So you can see, even if I push it all the way to the end, there is still probably 2-inch gap at the other end. So you can fit quite a lot in this particular bag. It also has like a small, medium, large in like more normal dimensions where they're like slightly less long, I guess. But I just wanted to make this one because it's something different. I also probably made it different to what the pattern says. I didn't read the instructions because it's a Boxy pouch, and generally speaking, that's pretty easy to do. My brain knows how to do it this way. There are several ways you can make it. One day I might do the same bag and make it the way the pattern says. We'll see. But for today, let's get going with how to make this. Also, before I go, do not forget to like this video and make sure you subscribe to my channel to see all the other things I do. All right, let's go. Okay, so I have off camera already stuck together and printed off my pattern. So the pattern technically has 3 pieces. This is the exterior, which means you need something non-directional if you want to have everything looking fabulous. Otherwise, you can use the lining piece because the lining piece comes in 2. So if you wanted to, you could do 2 pieces of lining, stitch them together, and then do everything. And that way, the fabric will be going the right way on both sides, no matter which way you turn it. So this is just a quilting cotton. And then this is a bazooka duck. It's a bit thicker. I'm just using it because it's non-directional and fun. And then I'm trying these out with this, it's called peeled foam. It's from Clark Rubber. It is cheaper than bag foam, but as you can see, it's also a lot softer. So I'm not quite sure how it'll go. So what I've done is I've laid this down and then just made it a bit bigger. This was actually just a scrap of this stuff that I had. And then what I want to do is I want to take this fabric and stick it together. So I'm going to put it wrong sides together and then grab my can of basting spray. This is my basting spray. I am using the Odiv 505 temporary adhesive. So what I'm going to do is spray it on. Now I'm in a very well ventilated room. Otherwise you should maybe do this in a well ventilated room or turn on a fan or something. So I'm just going to spray it on that side and then lay it down on the fabric. Making sure that I am outside of the seam allowance. Not seam allowance. Selvage edge. That's what I wanted. Okay, so that's not very stuck, let's be honest. So I'm just going to spray some more on. That's the whole point of the spray. Just don't want it shifting while I am trying to sew all the quilt lines. It's the only thing I find with this, it gets blocked quite easily. It's very dramatic. Anyway, now I'm just going to get some scissors. And I'm going to cut roughly. Now, the reason I'm not cutting it perfectly is because once we do the quilt lines, it might shrink a little bit. Happens with quilts. So it's a fair assumption that it'll happen now. So I'm just going to cut around. And then you can either draw the quilt lines on, or we can see if we can do it on the machine without it. I haven't decided which way I'm going to go yet. If you've got a quilting foot that has like a gauging bar, that's obviously what you want to use. So that's that. If you're using the batting, lots of the time they also put an interfacing on the back of this so it feels smoother. So you could do a lot of ways. You could iron on like a thin fleece and then put it over batting. You can do what I do and put it on like a thin, cheaper foam, because that will stop it being like lumpy, I suppose is the right word. This is too much excess, but again, this was my scrap, so it's fine. And then we're just going to cut 2 of the linings. Let me just pop this over here. So this is the lining. I'm just going to use a solid color for the inside, because why not? This is quite a large bag. I am under the assumption that I'm going to be able to fit all my hair tools in it, which is kind of the point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold it in half, lay it down, and then I can cut both at the same time, which I really like that idea. So to get a nice straight edge, I'm going to use a ruler and a rotary cutter to do the long bits. So there's one. I'll fold that up off camera because you don't need to watch that. And then I'm going to pop this at this edge. Like so. Now you might be wondering why I cut so much off, and the answer is because the edge wasn't straight. So I wanted to make sure I caught the underside as well. And then if you're feeling like it, you can do these bits. And cut again. And then we just need to trace out these bits, and then I will cut them with scissors personally. So you can draw them if you would like. I'm using the Cool Silver pen because it's a dark color and we need to be able to see where I'm cutting. I'm going to remove the pattern just so I don't cut it. That would not be ideal. Now, and again, if you want to, you can put interfacing on this as well. I don't think I'm going to though. I might change my mind before we get to the sewing part, but I don't think I will. I don't think I want to put interfacing. Then again, we never know. Right, and then we're going to do the other side. So I'm going to just move it so I can cut it easier. If you're really good with a rotary cutter, you could absolutely do this. I'm not. And it's pretty blunt, and I really need to go and get a new blade. So there's that too. So now I've got 2. So that's our lining. I am going to iron it because those creases are going to annoy me later. So I'm actually just going to heat press it with candy over there, and then we can go and start the sewing. You will also need a zipper and a zipper pull, so don't forget about that. Right, so we probably don't really need that anymore. What I did find though was it's like an arm. So I've set it to 3/4 of an inch from where the needle's going to hit, just so that I can do some quilting lines. I'm gonna go with purple because that's what's in the machine. I've never used this before. I don't know if it's going to work. Couldn't tell you, but I'm going to kind of tilt it up a little bit now that the foot's down. The idea is that this is a guide so I can do straight quilt lines. So I am curious if it's going to work for me. So far so good. And then I'm going to use that line as a guide for the next one. It does move up and down with everything, which is a little off-putting. I don't know, not too bad. You can also draw your quilt lines if you want, but I'm actually pretty happy with that. With enough. This would also be really cool if I was doing wavy lines. because you could just follow along. You can get quite fancy if you want to. I am going to stick with simple. Okay, not quite working out. I'm not sure if this is where it's meant to live or not. I guess we'll find out though. Again, if I wanted to, I could draw the lines. It would be probably just as easy. Yeah, I don't think this is working out as well as I thought it would. Very cool idea, but it does keep loosening, which is concerning. Also, this is supposed to hold the foot on, so maybe not that, but it was worth a try. You might have a better solution for it. I also use my bobbins to tighten things. You can judge me all you like for that one. I'm okay with it. So, we're obviously going to be here a minute. Instead, we are going to grab this and my Chaco pen and then draw 3/4 inch lines. Just means more chalk dust everywhere. That's what I was trying to avoid. And the fact that drawing lines takes forever. You know, there's that too. Now we wonder what I'm doing. It's probably easier for me to go along this way and then flip it over and then join up the other half of the line. I could also grab a longer ruler. Would do the same thing. You could also do wider quilt lines. The 3/4 inch does look pretty good though, so whatever you want, really. Along we go. Remembering that this is a little bit bigger than what we need. And then I'm going to flip it. Join up those lines. I would have really liked it if the other thing had worked, but what do you do? These alternates are very straight. I blame that on my starting point. I should have drawn the first line. Probably would have been much straighter. Whatever. Okay, so off we go. Quilting. I'm on a stitch 3. We're also probably going to run out of bobbin thread soon because this was not a brand new bobbin, like a full one. If I decide to make these to sell, I will make 2 at a time so that I can do this one and then chain sew the next one. I feel like it would be quicker. And give me less tails at the end. I'm getting quite a lot of tails here. But I might just leave them and ignore them because I'm probably going to cut them off anyway when I cut the fabric. I could also go back and forth like this, I suppose. Lots of ways you can do it. There's not really a right or a wrong way. Twist, fold over. The reason it's so noisy is because this is not terribly thick, and this machine likes thick things. This was probably better made on the green machine. Too late now though, I've started. then have to press this afterwards. Well, I'm going to keep it like as flat and neat as possible. Quilt lines have never been my strong suit though. If you own a quilting machine, my suggestion would be to do like cool, crazy, swirly quilt stuff. Whether it's a free arm or if you've got an embroidery machine with a really big hoop. Going as fast as I could, believe it or not. There is faster. And again, you could go slowly, but I find I don't want to. Basically. With that now. So what I am going, oops, stop it. At least my bobbin had a meltdown at the end. It's actually still pretty full, all things considered. So with that done, I am now going to put it in the heat press and just kind of flatten it out, and then I will cut with the template around to cut this piece as one whole, and then I'll be back. Right, so normally you would do the quilt lines vertical, but I did them wrong, so it didn't quite fit. So instead I have in fact got them going horizontally. Won't really matter, I don't think. I also found, since this is for like hair straightener and stuff, I found this really cool zipper pull that is, I believe, Tangular. Don't come for me, but it's a Pokemon. But it's got crazy looking hair, and I just feel like that goes with the whole vibe of what I'm trying to do right now. So, I also thought that pink zipper tape with rainbow teeth would look amazing. It's extreme, I'm aware. I just don't mind. So, with my piece of zipper tape and some clips with my Lord of the Rings bowl, I am going to put them right sides together. You could also be using zipper tape, like double-sided tape, the 1/8 of an inch or 3mm. I'm making sure I'm not pulling it and stretching it. I'm just letting it sit where it wants to sit. I'm actually put all those, I've put all the clips on upside down, but it happens. And then I'm gonna grab my cart with my scissors, and we're just gonna chop like so. And then I'm gonna wind this up and put it away. Well, I won't put it away, but I'll put it aside. And it's always just neater if you wind it up. And then we're going to pop this one on top, like so. And add the clips, or add it into the clips, I should say. Sometimes I like to just grab it like that, pinch, and then I'm going to put all the clips so that they face the exterior instead. Because I like to put the lightest fabric on the bottom with the feed dogs. I find that it works best. So, with that, I'm going to stitch it this way. Now, you can see here that my stitching was not terribly straight. I do not regret it though. I was going for like a bit of a wild look. So, I'm going to go down to a 2.5 stitch length. And again, probably should have done this on the green machine because it's not very thick. But we are going to stitch and backstitch at the end. around as well. And I can get all the chalk dust off my foot, would probably be a good idea. And then I am going to tuck this seam allowance underneath and then top stitch along here. It will help the zipper sit nicer. And we're going to backstitch because we always backstitch. And trim off the tails because we don't like the tails in the way. So that's one side done. Now I'm going to split the zip, pop it over here, clip it together, and do the same thing with the other half. Now there's lots of different Boxy pouch versions. I missed a bit of fabric. We're going to cut that off just so it gets out of my way. Like so. There are lots of versions of making a Boxy pouch. They're all pretty much of a muchness. I have seen people are now leaving a gap in the zipper here and turning it through so that you can have the lining all as one piece. I have seen where you stitch the lining as well and have it as one piece and then do French seams on the box corners. It's not a right or a wrong way. If I had time, I would make them all for you, all the different ways. I take the same Boxy pouch and make this, you know, 5 different ways. The end result is the same. You just have to pick which way you like. This one's going to have like a seam in the middle, and you can hand stitch it to make it invisible if you wanted to. I won't, but you could. All right. We're going to make sure that this piece is well and truly out of the way. We don't want it tucked up underneath. We don't want to accidentally stitch it in place. It would mean unpicking. There's no way around that. And because it's a zip, I am doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to trim those tails. I was going to leave them till later, but they will annoy me, so we'll do it now. Flick it out, and then we're going to push this seam underneath the exterior and then top stitch it down. It will help the Boxy bag sit nicer, I promise. Backstitch at the end as well, and then I'm going to take these and trim, and then I want to put the zipper together. So I'm going to do it this way because it'll be easier. I'm going to take my zipper pull. I like to hold it halfway, feed the other half in. You could also use your zipper jig if you have one. I do have one. Right, and you want to zip all the way off. This is how I like to do it. Again, this is not how all the patterns do it. Some of them leave one end open. I like it this way because I find that it will sit evenly. And I'm all about the evenly. So then I'm going to put the zipper on. Yeah, no, that's good. And I'm going to put it right in the middle. This will ensure that it can't get to any of the seams. It's not in my way. Everyone's happy. Now, if you're worried, you can also stitch just the zipper end, like across just the zipper here. I am now going to turn it inside out because we need it inside out. Then we can start over here. So I'm going to leave a pretty big gap, like my hand's worth, so that we can turn the bag through there. The bigger the gap, the more noticeable it'll be, but still worth it. So then we're going to stitch, back stitch, line up those edges. Again, this machine is not designed to do fabric this tight, this thin. So I'm going to grab here and kind of give it some tension to make sure it doesn't misbehave. Back stitch, lift your needle up, and then I'm just going to create a gap by jumping forward a bit. You could also clip this together. About there's good. And then we're going to stitch, back stitch, because that'll lock it in. My brain still says lock it in, Eddie. If you're Australian, you know. So now I've got a turning gap that I have created, which is wonderful. And then we want to start layering the pieces. So I'm going to start with just the exterior like this, and I'm pretty sure this pattern is designed to have a thinner zipper tape than this. It'll be fine. Then we're going to add this layer on like so. Then we're going to grab this part here, sneeze, trim the tail. There's another tail. There we go. Lay it flat. You want this seam here along the zipper so it's in the middle. Like that. So I've made a sandwich. We're going to do the same to the other end. So again, line everything up in the center. Pull this one back. You can clip all the layers at once if you want to. I'm not using a lot of clips because it's not going to fight me as much, I don't think. And then this one up, seam in the center. Like that, and like that. And clip that one there. Alright, so now I'm going to stitch across here. Like that. And we're going to do this end as well. Then we're going to box out all of these corners. So I like to start with the lining. I'm going to put my fingers at the two corners and pull. The tail is in my way. And then I'm going to try and line it up so it's fairly even. And I'm wondering if I can get all the corners at the same time. I reckon I can. So I'm going to add some clips to hold it in place. Clips are your friend. And then I'm going to grab the lining and add it in. Right, I know it looks a bit filly, but then all the corners will be perfectly level and even. So, under we go, stitch, back stitch, like so. And then that should give us a beautiful corner. I have faith in that. So, let's do the next one. I don't know if this is how the pattern says. I didn't read it. Not even gonna lie to you. I'm just going with what I'm feeling, as ridiculous as that sounds. So again, corner, corner, stretch it out, add it into the clips, like so. Don't worry about what all the other fabric's doing, just shove it out the way, honestly. It'll be fine. By adding the exterior and the lining in, it means that we're not gonna have a saggy lining. And because this boxy pouch is so large, I think this is going to work. And if it doesn't, I will show you my giant flop. Then I'll have to unpick stuff, which I really don't want to do. I hate unpicking. Alright, so I'm just kind of yanking everything. Don't worry about what the rest of it's doing. We only care about the corner we're working on at the time. Okay? I know that might sound dodgy, but it'll all work out, I promise. All right, so I'm going to grab that other corner, bring it across, add it to the clips. I also want to make sure that this is level, so we're just going to tug at it. And again, here, see how it's all bunching up? We are just going to ignore it. Ignore your problems and they'll go away. I know that's not how we should deal with things in life, but for this particular moment, it'll be fine. Stitch, back stitch. Make sure you're caught. You should also check just to make sure that you caught both layers if you are worried, but that's why we're using clips. So again, I'm going to flatten this out and I'm going to add this in, and then I'm going to grab the two corners, fold it at the right angle, and it should fold onto itself beautifully. Bring both the layers, not just one. Add the clip on. Now I'm only using 2 or 3 clips at a time. If you need more, absolutely use more. You don't have to just do 2 clips because I did. Look, you could add heaps of clips, especially if it's trying to fight you. Depending on how rigid your interfacing in foam or whatever you've used is, you might need more clips to make it behave itself. That's fine. Stitch, back stitch. Trim off the tails because again, I don't like tails everywhere. Now, I'm going to show you that got really close to the edge of the second piece. So with this side up, I am now going to stitch a little bit more just so that that doesn't fray and undo, because that is actually the last thing we need. I don't want to play that game. Now I'm not worried. So now we can just go through this hole. Now I left my zipper closed. I know this freaks a lot of people out, but I did it deliberately. So there's my zipper. To fix this problem, put your finger in front and push down. Right? And then sometimes you can just gently tug on the zipper and it will undo, but otherwise put your hand in and use the zipper pull to undo it. Can go either way. Alright, so now that we've got all of our, look, it looks like a right proper mess. I am aware of that, but you've got to trust the process a little bit. So then I'm just going to start in the corner, push everything through. I like to just push with my thumbs, and I've kind of tucked this around my fingers. And let me just show you what the finished product actually looks like, to prove to you that I didn't botch it, because I'm probably not doing it the way the pattern said. Because let's be honest, do I ever? Alright, so when we look in, see how the corners, they don't flop anywhere because they've all been tucked in. There's no raw edges. Let me just open, there we go. So there's no raw edges. There is just that bottom gap. But all the corners are tucked up, which means that it's going to sit nicely. And then when we zip it closed, it's not bad. Now, remembering, this is less dense than bag foam, so it is a little flop out. Like if you have a look here, it does kind of round out a little bit. It would be nice if it was a bit firmer maybe because of the size of it. But if you were doing smaller ones that were like half, you know, like if you chopped it there, that would sit perfectly, I should think. Either way, I'm pretty happy with that. And it was so quick. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this here. Now, if you felt the need, you could absolutely hand stitch this and make it invisible. But we all know I'm not going to do that because we all know my stance on hand stitching. I only do it when I must, and that's mainly for buttons or like a dress I'm wearing. Nobody's really going to pay attention to this seam. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my fingers at each end, and then if you pull taut, not rip it tight, but just so it's firm, it will fold in on itself to create the straight line. The other option is you could iron it down if you wanted to. I'm starting to think that might be the plan. So you could slip stitch along here and make it invisible. I'm not going to do that, but you absolutely could, and it would look fine. But most people that don't sew won't really pay attention to this little seam, so I am going to stitch it with the sewing machine. Now, my purples are identical, but it'll be fine. So I just want to start right where the join kind of opens up, you want to maybe go back 2 stitches, and we're going to stitch and back stitch. And then I want to try and stitch as close as I can to that edge. Like that, and then we're going to back stitch, pull it out, trim it off. There we go. And so that's now what it looks like on the inside. But I really like that. And that's it. Whole boxy pouch done in a very short amount of time. That was under an hour, I reckon. That's a pretty good pattern. I like it. I actually really like that I didn't do dead straight quilting lines because of the fabric choice. The fabric's a bit kind of all over the place, so I like that my lines aren't dead straight. If you were making a Beetlejuice one or a Jack Skellington, I would do the same thing where I make them straight-ish, but not necessarily dead straight. Or if you do one that fits inside an embroidery machine, I would totally quilt it with like fun stuff. There's dragons and stars and all kinds of crazy things. You could also line it up if you wanted to. That's something I would do. But I really like that. I love the little tangular, and even though it's quite a dangly zipper pull, it still fits nicely. And it will fit all of my hair accessories, which you will see at the start of this video, because I'm going to do it now. Thank you all for watching. I hope this was a different take on how to do a boxy bag. Please try it. I do think that doing all the edges at the same time is much quicker, but you can do them anyway. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can build this. I really like this way though. So I'll see you next time, guys.